Good evening, ladies.
Kavod Harav, how are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Thank God.
Good evening. Yes.
Good evening. All right, let's go. Facebook. Okay. Yes, okay, so we're continuing with the Bet Yosef. Rabbi Yosef Askandarni. Askandarni, nice name. Okay, so it says, this rabbi, Katav V'zeleshano, this language of the rabbi, Hanose Masui Shel Arba Kavim. He's carrying a load of 4 calves, Berosho on his head, Ev Shalomar Shemashu Zeh Al Rosho Lemala. So it says it's not really possible to say that this is on his head above. Interesting. If so, he says, Mali lefanav, mali lesalkan lesadim. What do I care if it's in front or the sides? Move to the sides. Hare hamasa mikol makom al rosho. Nevertheless, it's on his head the burden. He says, rather, this is the perush. This is the proper explanation. So the what happens, he says like this, that that load is tied to his head with a rope. And he says it's like hanging down from his back. So he explains it differently than the way we understood before. We thought it was like directly on top of his head. Al gabo, the kashur mirosho. So it says it's tied from his head, but it's drooping down on his shoulder, right on the back of the one. The gabo, v'chel kederech sheosim nos'eh mas'ot. So he says it's like the way people do when they're carrying loads. There's a certain way that they do it. V'amar she'im haya masui zeh arba kavim. It says that if this burden was 4 calves, the tefillin nidchakin, and because of that, the tefillin is being pushed, squashed, whatever, because of the load. So he says what it means is like this: that the rope, which is on his head, that that load is tied to it. It pushes aside the tefillin. How does it asu? It's not allowed. And if not, what does that mean? Perush sheya masui pachot me'arba kavim. That means that it's less than 4 calves. This burden, right? Or sheya arba kavim v'nat tefillin nidchakim bo. Or let's say it was 4 calves, but it's not pushing the tefillin at all. It's not squashing the tefillin. Mutar, then it's allowed. It says if this burden, which is on his head, it's hanging on his head, and so he says if it was the burden was excrement, the tefillin wouldn't be pushed because of the rope. Also, it will be less than 4 kavim. How does it asur? Anyway, it's asur. because of the right, it's a disrespect to have such a thing like that when you're wearing tefillin. So as if he forgot that the tefillin is on his head. Masui zeh shel zeber lachashur berosho. It says this this load which is tied to his head, ubechevel umufshal al gabo, and it's hanging off his back. Kisheniz kar shehu zebel, and then when he remembers that it's garbage, whatever. So then he wants to remove the capsule, the tefillin. Lechad mishnetz tzadei harosh. He wants to one of the sides of the head. Yaminu small, either the right or the left. So he says, why? Because the heaviness, the weight of the garbage, which is tied to him. It's exactly where, in his head, where the tefillin is supposed to be. He says, therefore, that's why he wanted to remove the tefillin to the sides. He thought that in this way it will be mutar, it will be allowed. Therefore he says katav, therefore he writes, shegam im yaseh ken, even if he does this way, hare hu adayin beisur, it's still forbidden. She'adayin yesh bedavar zilzul, there's still some kind of a disgrace there going on, right? Not very respectful kind of thing. So therefore, what should you do? He says, Yasirem mirosho. He says, right? Just remove the tefillin from his head altogether. Pikshirem bezra'o, right? And tie it on your arms. This is the way to do it. Makom anachat tefillin, the place where you put the tefillin, shilyad of the arm. The aino besmol, meaning to say that it's the left side, the left arm. Shareh enom mishtamesh besmol kimol bimino. Because he doesn't use his left like he does his right. When he removes the burden, the load, so he says you have to be careful. That's talking about a burden, a load. Like we said, something like a rope on his head. But it says if the load was actually on his head, like we explained yesterday, and it's not hanging off his back. Asur, anyway, it's forbidden, it says, in any case. Even though the tefillin is not being pushed. Because why? All the while that the tefillin is on his head, you're not even to put a handkerchief there. That he's using that handkerchief to tie the tefillin. Interesting. Okay, so this is like an alternative explanation of this whole Gemara that we just mentioned, right? Alternate explanation, whatever. Okay, so we'll see what the halakha turns out to be. So then it goes on. Umash katav Rabbeinu, and that which Rabbeinu wrote the Torah about davar shedarko liten berosho, but something which is always the way to put on your head, kagon mitznefet, like as we said, like a turban hat kind of thing, or kobam, or some kind of a regular hat, mutar, you're allowed to do that. Kvar katabti is Aruch, so I already wrote close by. Sherambam katav aval. Rambam says like this about sonef hu mitznafto al tefillin. He says you're allowed to put your turban, whatever, your hat on the tefillin. They also agreed with this, these rabbis. So he says they gave the reason what? They only forbade like a handkerchief. Why? Because that looks like a disgrace for the tefillin. Because it's not like, it's not clothing, you're just like covering your head with some kind of a handkerchief. Interesting. But something which is the way to put on your head, like a hat. So that's okay. There's no disgrace about wearing that. Interesting. Okay, that's the end of the Bet Yosef here. So now we're gonna go and see the Shulchan Aruch. Mem Aleph. Very nice. Okay. Oh, this is the wrong one. Ah, here we are. Okay. So Shulchan Aruch is only one Shulchan Aruch here. So it says like this: Hanosem masui al rosho. As we said, right, that a person has a burden, a load on his head. In those days, this was the way they used to carry stuff on their head. Walking through the market. You even find it today, by the way, things like this. People walking through the market with their head covered with some load, got some kind of a burden there on the head. In Israel also, you do see things like this with the Arabs. The Arab culture is very much like this. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right? They carry stuff like on their heads, like a big container of bread, a box of bread or whatever, stuff like that. Cartons, yeah. So anyway, right? It says choletz tefillin shel rosh ad sheyasir masui. So what should a person do? Remove the tefillin, right, off your head when you have something like that, until you remove the burden off your head. So what does that mean? The tefillin and the burden shouldn't be on your head at the same time. It's not respectful, right? So it doesn't seem to give like a minimum weight, like we saw before. I guess that'll come later in a different scenario, but this scenario, if it's directly on his head, so here it seems like he paskins that it doesn't really matter what weight we're talking about. Any weight you shouldn't have on your head when you're wearing tefillin. So either, right, if you're doing some kind of a weight like that on your head, take off your tefillin, right? Today, anyway, we don't wear tefillin all day, so we don't work with tefillin today, so therefore it's not really relevant so much. So it goes on, so it says, even you're not allowed to put a handkerchief on your head when you're wearing tefillin. This is incredible, very interesting halakha. Right, so as we said, right, in the Bet Yosef, that this is considered to be disrespectful for the tefillin, that you're wearing a handkerchief on top of it. Why is that? Because the handkerchief is not clothing. That's the interesting thing. Go figure. Interesting. Okay, so then it goes on. But if it's something which is the way to put on your head, so it gives you an example, right? Hat, right, or the turban, as we said, right? All kinds of things like this. Mutar, then you're allowed to do that. You can cover the tefillin with the hat or the turban, because this is the way of it's clothing. It doesn't disgrace the tefillin. Okay, then it goes on. This is the Rama here. So says Rama, says nevertheless, if it's a heavy burden, right? What does that mean? Dalet kavin, right? Dalet kavin. It's a lot of weight. The tefillin needs chakot, and the tefillin is being pushed. Then you have to remove it. So the question is, what is the Rama adding here that we didn't see before? He's adding you the issue of the 4 kavin. It's heavy, this thing. Let me just see here.
Maybe pressing down the tefillin, like something heavy pressing down.
Yeah. So then, like, the question is, like, we already said in the beginning, right, that you have something on your head. So what's the difference between the first part and what the Rama is bringing? Like, in other words, what the new element is the Rama adding here?
The heaviness, there's something heavy.
Right, but we always said it's forbidden even if it's not heavy. So then now, what are you telling me now?
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So what are you trying to tell me? Okay, so
Is it pushing because it's
I'm sorry.
pushing the tefillin on the side?
I'm sorry.
Is it because it's pushing the tefillin on the side, correct?
You mean
The
what?
heavy, the burden.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I think that's what it is. That the Rama is trying to tell you that in the first part we're talking about any kind of thing on your head.
Okay,
Wait
and
one
then
second. I'm still not sure. Not sure.
because it began with the 4 calves, so that was heavy, and
Yeah.
but then
But if we already started out with the light that is forbidden, then what does the heaviness now give me? What is it adding to me here? Right. So you know what I think he's saying here, the Rama? He's telling you that if this headpiece, right, you have the hat or the turban is a heavy one, so then even if you're not allowed to do it, even though it's a hat, it sounds strange, right? That a hat will be that heavy. but I think that there are some things like sometimes people have like heavy hats, like they're made out of metal or something, some kind of a crown, whatever, all kinds of wreaths. I think that's what he's saying. So because he's going on the last part of the Shulchan Aruch, right? The Shulchan Aruch in the last part is saying like this, that a hat is okay, right? That's what we said. So comes Rama and says, but if it's 4 kavim, even a hat is not okay. Let me see how he explains in the Mishnah Berurah.
Kavod Hara 4 kavim is what again? What's that?
Yeah, it's a certain kind of a weight. It's very heavy. I don't know exactly how it comes out to be in
Kilograms.
kilos or pounds. We can look it up. By the way, we can find that. But let me just let's go step by step. First of all, let's see what we're talking about here. Let's look at the Mishnah Berurah, what he says about this. Okay. So you know what he says, the Mishnah Berurah? He brings you the weight that they used to have in his time, right? Which was about 100 years ago or so. So he says in his time, this 4 kav is 25 litra. So I guess it's like a liter, litra is a liter. Shoklin bo kesef b'Prague. That's how they says in Prague, right, in Hungary. That's how they weigh the silver. Okay, so I guess he means to say like maybe 25 kilos, but that's really heavy. That's really heavy. Okay, let me just look a little bit more here. Let's see what else they say here. Commentaries here. Looking at the Magen Avraham. Right, so he also brings the same thing, the Magen Avraham, like the Mishnah Berurah. He's talking about 25 gold coins. So it seems like it's not really a kilo. It's much less than that, obviously. But if we really want to find out exactly what this is in our time, we have to look at more modern book. Okay, 1 second. Give me a second. Yeah, so that's what it seems to be according to the according to Mishnah Berurah here, that he's talking about that the hat is very heavy. It's a very heavy hat. Now let's find like how heavy this really is. Maybe we'll look in the Yalkut Yosef to see what he says about our measurements. What this comes out to be. So we're in Mem Aleph, right? So let's go to the Yalkut Yosef 1 second. Let's see what he says. If he doesn't have it, I'll just I'll look it up later sometime and I'll bring you guys the news next time. I don't want to waste too much time on this.
Thank you. At least we have an idea, no?
Yeah, we have an idea, yeah. Okay, so let's see what we're dealing with here. Oh no, this is not it. It seems like he doesn't bring this chapter at all in Yalkut Yosef. He didn't want to deal with it. You know why? Because it's not very practical. Today, nobody does this kind of stuff, Who wears tefillin when he's working, right? I mean, no, nobody does this today. And that's probably why he skipped it. He skipped it over. Okay, all right. So we'll get back to you on that. And it just it's very trivial, this whole thing, because as we said, right, it's not really practical. Nobody does it today. Okay, let's get back to our business. So that's that. He totally skipped over the chapter. He didn't even include it. Interesting. Yeah, he only deals with practical stuff, more. Okay, so now we'll go back. Oh, no, we're going to the next chapter. That's it. Membet. That was a short chapter. Yep. Okay, so let's see what's going on with Membet. We're almost finished with the Tefillin. We're almost there. Very close to the end. This is the Shulchan Aruch. Now we'll bring up the tour. Okay. Membet. Okay, so let's go on. So yeah, this is an interesting chapter. I think it's also quite short, but anyway, it says like this right in the tour. So he says like this, right? That you cannot take the head tefillin and turn it into the arm tefillin. You can't change it. Even if you just take like a strap from them and put it into their arm, asur, not allowed. But to change the arm tefillin and make it into a head tefillin is allowed. But now you guys know why one is allowed and one is not allowed? Anybody have an idea?
The head tefillin is holier than the arm tefillin.
Ah, there you go. Okay, we have this smart lady from Florida.
Mm.
Okay, so yeah, that's you guessed it, or you said it, whatever, and I guess you knew it, whatever. So anyway, right, that's the reason why, because the shel rosh, the head, is more holy than the arm, and this is the reason why you're allowed to turn. So there's a general rule in halakha. You know what the rule is? We go up in holiness, but we're not allowed to go down. We can only go up. Going down is not allowed. So therefore, if you make the head into the arm, you're going down. And that's not allowed. So, by the way, this applies to also many things besides this halakha. It applies in many, many areas. I'll tell you guys a little bit secret, by the way. You remember yesterday we talked about the issue of doing Parsha Shavua?
Yes.
You know, including it in our repertoire a little bit. So here's the thing, right? You know, after thinking about it really yesterday, the only way to do it properly, you know what it would be? To make a new lecture, like, you know, a separate lecture, because I'll tell you why. What's more holy, studying Parsha Shavua or Halakha?
Halakha.
For sure, right? So therefore, you're going down in the level of Kedusha. You're going down in holiness, like making Halakha class into Parsha Shavua class. That's not allowed to do that.
I'm going to disagree because you didn't used to do a halakha class on Saturday and now you will. So that's elevating Saturday.
That's exactly the point. Oh, there you go, right? In other words, but if I would do one of these classes that already exists, you understand? And turn into halakha, that would not be allowed. That's why I said we should do a new one, right? Something new.
So like on a Saturday night or
Okay,
something.
we understand each other?
Yeah.
That's it. That's the idea, you know? So the truth is, you know, it's a little bit of a nuance in halakha, but it's actually very, very true.
So you wouldn't take a Wednesday class and make it into a Parsha Shavua class.
Yeah, we shouldn't do that. Wouldn't be proper to do that.
You were
Would not be
talking
proper.
about that. You were talking about adding a Saturday.
Exactly. That would be fine. But, you know, we had like two opinions, you know? We had, like Buria said, we should add a new class because she wants to keep the old classes, you know, the way they are. And then David said, you know, maybe we should include it in every class. So the truth is, you know, Quinta Halakha, that would not be a good idea to include it in every class. Because that would be like we're going down. So yeah. By the way, you know, just to make you understand also, this also applies in Torah study in general. In other words, let's say a person, right? I was told by my rabbis, you know, this concept, very, very true concept, very clear. If a person, you know, let's say studying, you know, something, you know, like high level, right, deep halakha, you know, Bet Yosef, it's quite deep, Bet Yosef. So if that's the case, right, now he wants to learn Kitzer book, you know, some Kitzer, you know, short form, you know, some short book, right? So he's not allowed to. He shouldn't do that. Why? Because he's going down in the level of learning. Because when you learn deeper, you know, it's a higher level of learning. I mean, you're going into the reasons and all the opinions and all these things. It's a higher level. So when you're just learning a kitzer, it's like very, you know, mundane. Like, you know, yeah, okay, that's halakha. Okay, next. You know, like you're just knocking it off. That's not really the highest level of learning. So this is the reason also, right? So the truth is, you know, that there's a concept like this, right? You guys may know or not know, whatever. There's a concept of bitul Torah. What does that mean? You know, you stop learning, you know, and do something worthless, right? You know, not worth anything. That's called bitul Torah, right? You're ceasing the Torah learning. And by the way, the truth is that by women doesn't apply so much because women are not really obligated to learn Torah, like day and night, constantly. You know what I mean? Like men are. So by men, there's a concept of bitul Torah, like stopping learning. It's considered to be a very big sin to stop learning Torah. So why am I telling you this? Because it doesn't only apply to a person who stops learning, it also applies to a person who's learning something on a lower level. All of a sudden he was doing something on a high level. Now he wants to jump down, do something easier. You shouldn't do that. It's bitul Torah, qualitative bitul Torah. That's what it's called, right? Qualitatively. But the truth is, that there is an exception to that rule. The exception is like this. The exception is, let's say a person, is tired, and he can't really learn now deep. His mind is already like shot, the wires have already been tripped up, or whatever. So he needs to rest a little bit. He's tired. So then they say, better they should learn something easy than to let go altogether. You know what I mean? You have to know yourself, like what what your strength is. So a person knows that he can't learn right now something very deep. That's not the concentration for that. So let him learn something light. That's whatever. That's the thing. Just want to explain this concept to you a little bit. It's really a very important concept. So here, the same thing, right? That as we said, right, that you can turn the arm into the head, but you cannot turn the head into the arm because you're going down. I mentioned this already one time, but it's really quite important, quite fascinating. That somebody asked me a question, from this community here, one of the boys over here. Nice, sharp question, which he was got into it a little bit. So he asked me, he says, Rabbi, are you allowed to take the tefillin of Rashi and turn it into Rabbeinu Tam? That's what he asked me. So I said, yeah, you are. So why did I tell him that you are? Because according to Kabbalah, Rabbeinu Tam is on a higher level than Rashi. That's why I told him. So then he gets back to me, He didn't accept it so much. He didn't like this. It didn't sit well with him. He says, I asked a different rabbi, and he told me something else, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, so let him bring a source. If he has a source, we'll see what it is, right? So the truth is, we found that there's a machloket, there's a dispute about this in the poskim, whatever. So the Ben Ish Chai says, Rabbi Yosef Chaim, one of the great rabbis of the Sephardi community 100 years ago. So he says, the Ben Ish Chai, that you're allowed to do that, as I said, because of the Kabbalah, right? Because the tefillin is, Rabbeinu Tam is a higher level than Rashi, so therefore you're allowed to change it. But the other way around, no. So then, right, we found that there's also other poskim who say not like that, and because they say, according to the pshat, according to the simple meaning, like Rabbeinu Tam is not on a higher level than Rashi. And they say just the opposite, right? Since the halacha is more like Rashi, most people put Rashi and not Rabbeinu Tam, so therefore it's more holy than the Rabbeinu Tam. But the truth is, that's not really such a great, proof that one is holy than the other. Just because the custom is like this one, not like that one, doesn't really prove anything that's holier. So the truth is, I don't really agree with this opinion. The ones who say this. So I told this boy, I said, I'm holding my ground with this. I'm going like the Ben Ish Chai. Why? Because according to Kabbalah, Rabbeinu Tam is higher than Rashi, and according to Halacha, right, Rashi is not really higher than Rabbeinu Tam. It's just we're not sure which one is the Halacha. Okay, whatever. It's a whole discussion we had, but anyway, that's how it turned out in the end. Okay, good. Very good. You ladies are sharp. I must tell you, you're sharp ladies. Okay, God bless you. All right. Only Hashem knows what kind of levels you're going to go to, you ladies. I don't know. You're going to be soon outpacing me, believe me. All right, so here we go. Let's get back to our discussion. So we said that this is the halacha. Let's look at the Bet Yosef for a second. Okay. Membet. So says Bet Yosef, the Peretz Beka comments. That's where it is in Menachot. Lamed Dal Amud Bet. Most of the sugyot of Tefillin are over there, and also tzitzit. They're all over there. So it says Menachot. It says Tanya im en lo Tefillin shel yad. So it says like this in the Braita. He doesn't have tefillin of the hand or the arm, and he has two of the head. Poor guy, right? Unfortunate, right? Right? So what should we do? He says, let him cover one of them, so it shouldn't look like the tefillin of the head, and put it on his arm. Because when he covers it with some leather, it doesn't look like it's 4 separate capsules, 4 separate compartments like the head is. We don't want it to look like that, because on the arm it's not supposed to be that way. So therefore, it says the Braita, if you don't have 2 of them for the arm, 1 of them for the arm, you got 2 for the head, cover one of them and put it on your arm. Right, that's what he says. Okay, so good. Okay, so then he goes on.
Kavod Harav,
Yes.
this can be done only when the tefillin is brand new, right? Or something
we're
like
gonna
that.
we're gonna get into that in a second, right? This issue of brand new or not. The truth is that right now we haven't talked about that yet. Anything about that yet? That hasn't come into the picture yet, but it will. It will come in a second. So he says like this, right? That right. So then it goes on. So Gemara says any, but he says it doesn't sound right. The Gemara says but it says this rabbi sent some kind of a correspondence. Mishmed Rabbi Yochanan, name Rabbi Yochanan. Tefillah shel yad osinota shel rosh. What does he say? The tefillin of the hand, you're allowed to make it into the head. The shel rosh and osinota shel yad, but you're not to go the other way around, as we just read in the tour, right? So then, how do you just do this, right? You just made it into to the arm by covering it with leather and put it on your arm. You're not allowed to do that. That's he's asking a question. What's the reason why? Because you're going down, as we said, right, in holiness, but going from the head to the arm, going down. Oh, so now, right, your answer comes in, right? One is talking about new tefillin, one is talking about old tefillin, right? By the way, just to explain to you, right, what difference does it make if it's old or new?
If
And what
it's
does it mean,
worn,
by the way, that it's old and new? What does it mean?
that it's worn the first time, no?
Like you might think, right? New is like, when it's like bright and shiny, sparkling. It's not that, right?
New to you?
So what it means is like this, right? That new means he never used it yet.
And new to you.
He never used it.
It can be used if someone gave it to you, but it's you.
No, it was never used by anybody. That's what it
by
means.
anybody. Okay.
Yeah, okay. You know why that is, by the way? What's the reason why? Because until you use it, it doesn't really have the holiness of tefillin. That's what brings the holiness of the tefillin when you use it. There's a concept like this, by the way, in Talmud called Hazmana Lav Miltahi. You know what that means? That preparation of something is not what makes it holy. Preparing it, making it. It's using it, right? That's the whole thing. So until you use it, it doesn't really have the holiness. On the contrary, right, by the way, I'll give you the opposite, right? Regarding a bathroom, let's say, right? Let's say they built a bathroom in a certain place, right? They built a bathroom there, but nobody has used it yet. So it doesn't really have, right, the din of a bathroom yet, until it was used as a bathroom. Then it becomes like defiled, like unclean, whatever you want to call it, right? But until you used it, just any other room, it's a room like anything else. The fact that you put a toilet there doesn't make it into filthy, When you use it, that's what does it. So, right, on the contrary, right, over here, just the opposite, right, talking about holiness. So when you haven't used it yet, then you can change it. Why? Because it doesn't have the holiness yet. You're going down or going up. That's not relevant. So, but when you use it, it's called old already, so that already you cannot do because you're going down now. Rashi explains, Tefillin shel rosh hamura kedushatan shel rubo shel shaddai naaseh b'shel rosh shin dalet. Oh, Rashi explains something incredible, right? He says, we just said that the tefillin of the head is more holy, right? But the question is why? What makes it more holy? It's the same thing, no? So Rashi explains the reason why the tefillin of the head is more holy than the tefillin of the arm is because there's a word name of God, which is spelled out in the tefillin, right? Shaddai, Shin Daled Yud. So this name, he says, most of that name, 2 letters out of 3 are on the head. So therefore, since the majority is over there, the name of God, therefore it's more holy than the arm. Because the arm only has 1 letter. What letter does the arm have? The Yud, right? Which is next to the box. Has only the Yud, but the Shin and Dalet is in the tefillin of their head. So therefore it's more holy. Right?
So I'm sorry, Kabbalah,
Yeah.
you're not allowed to use this leniency, given that based on Rashi, this argument of the 2 letters out of the 3.
Rashi is
being-
just explaining. He's not telling you something new.
Mhm.
He's just explaining the terms,
Okay.
giving you the reasoning, whatever. So he's telling you, right, that the reason why the head is more holy is because of that reason that we just mentioned. So then he says, right, about Beshel Zarua, but it says when the arm, Lika Ela Yud, you only should have the Yud, as we said, right? So now it talks about, Rashi explains, what does it mean to be old tefillin? Atikta, right? Old tefillin. You tie it on your head 1 time, it's called old. That's it, right? As we said. So then, once you tie it on your head 1 time, you're not allowed to now bring it down to be the arm. You're going down in holiness. Okay, good. So then it says, so I already wrote regarding this din, the Siman Lamed Bet, right? In the chapter 32, we already passed that. Right? Yeah, we went past that already. So then he goes on. So then also the Torah mentioned, just a couple of minutes ago, we read it, that not only you're not allowed to change the capsule from the head to the arm, but also the straps you cannot change either. In other words, it takes the straps from the head and turn to straps of the arm. That you can't do either, because you're going down again, right? Same thing. So it applies to the straps as well. And by the way, you see from there, the straps are also holy, so you gotta be careful with the straps. Right? Don't treat them with disrespect. Some people, as I told you, what they do is, I see this all the time, by the way. When they're putting on tefillin or taking it off, they throw the straps on the ground, like on the floor, sitting on the floor. And then gradually they roll it up, like until it rolls up. Why are you putting it on the floor? What do you think this is? What do you think this is? A piece of rubbish? What kind of thing is that? People have, some, they're daydreaming, some people, what can I tell you? They're not thinking about what they're doing. Okay, whatever. So anyway, right, here he brings the Beit Yosef to Rambam. King Katav Rambam says, Rambam also wrote this. So what does that mean? Even according to Rambam, you're not allowed to change the strap as well. Same thing as the capsule. No difference. Good, okay, so that's the Shulchan Aruch. Let's go to Shulchan Aruch. We're done with the Beit Yosef. So says the Shulchan Aruch, אסור לשנות תפילין של ראש לעשותן של יד. So you can't change the tefillin of the head to turn it into the arm, as we said, right? Going down. אפילו לקח רצועה, even the straps, you cannot do that. Man, בשל יד, אסור. You're not allowed to do that. מפני שאין מורידים מקדושה חמורה לקדושה קלה. Because you can't go down from a high level to a low level. This is the problem. B'shel rosh kedushato chamura. So it says the head, the holiness is is higher than on the arm, right? So what's the reason why? Shirubo shel Shaddai b'shel rosh, because most of the name of God is on the head. Okay, so let me just see if you guys are on the ball here, right? Where are the two letters of God's name on the head? Where are they? You guys remember? We learned this already before. Okay, so I'll remind you, right? The shin is on the side of the capsules, right? There's a shin there on the box, on the outside. Where's the daled? So daled is in the back of your neck, right there. The knot. There's a knot there, the back of your neck, and that's the daled. And where's the yud? The yud is on the arm. That's the name of God. Incredible, by the way, how intricate the tefillin is, right? How incredible this piece of artifact is, whatever it is, right? You want to call it. Okay, so good. Let's go on. So he says, but you're allowed to change the arm into the head, right? You're going up, so no problem. Says, but if they were new, what does it mean that they're new? He never put them yet. Then you're allowed to change it. Even to the head to the arm. Right? So what do? How do you do it? So he says, you cover it with some leather. Right? You cover it up so it looks like it's one capsule. Doesn't look anymore like it has compartments. That's what you got to do. Okay, any questions here? Okay, good. We're going. Let's go on. Very nice. So he says, right, that we have to go back to the tour here. So okay, I'll just read through here. So it says, Ima yu chadashim, if they were new, as we said, right? Shaloni chamadan, he didn't put them yet. Mutar shenot afilu b'shel rosh shel yad. You can change from the head to the arm, right? So it says, another interesting thing he says, right? Sudar, the azmene lemetzar bet tefillin, says if he designated a certain handkerchief, right, to wrap the tefillin in that handkerchief. In those days they use handkerchiefs. Today, like we have a bag for that, right? We have a nice little pouch that they make. For us nowadays, very comfortable with a zipper, right? We have that, but in those days they didn't have such nice things like that. So they just wrapped it up in a handkerchief, right? That's the way they did it. And so he says, so let's say he prepared it to be for the tefillin. But tzar bet tefillin, and he actually wrapped the tefillin already with it. So he says you're not allowed to not use that handkerchief to wrap up money, right? Because as we said, right, you're going down now in holiness. You were using it for tefillin, and now you're using it for bucks, right? For money. What's money's not holy, by the way. Even though America may make you think that, right? Money is a very holy item, but it's not really so. In God we trust, right? But money's not holy, but tefillin is, so therefore you shouldn't go down from one to the other, obviously. Okay, so that's that. So you see from there, by the way, that a person shouldn't put like money into his tefillin pouch, and put coins in there and stuff. It's not proper. Well, you want to have tzedakah money, right? So put it in your wallet. Well, don't put it with your tefillin. What does one have to do with the other? Okay. But it says but it says if he just prepared it to use for tefillin, but he actually didn't use it yet, right? Or let's say he wrapped it, but he didn't prepare it. Then you're allowed to use it for money. So in other words, in order that it should be holy for the use of tefillin, it needs two things, right? One thing is that you prepared it for that, right? So what does it mean to prepare? By the way, what's the preparation? That means like you thought about it, whatever, right? Yeah, that's what it means. You thought to make it like that. So you thought to make it only for the tefillin. So then once you thought about that, and also you actually did it, that's it, right? You're not allowed to use it anymore for money. But if you did only one of these things and you don't do the other, so then you can still use it for money. That's the idea. Okay, good. That's the tour. So that's the end of the tour. So now we'll go back to the Bet Yosef. Okay. So says Bet Yosef like this. Katav Rabbi Yerucham. Says Rabbi Yerucham, Dafiru ba'tikta im hetna yachol lasot shel yad meshel rosh. So he says, you know what? Even if it's like tefillin that was already used, but he says if he made a condition with this tefillin before using it, then you're allowed to change it. Right? So this concept exists in halakha, by the way, and also many other areas. That before you do something, right? Before you use something, make a condition. That I also, I'm also, keeping the right to use this for other purposes. And a person said that, whatever, or you made a condition. So if that's the case, he made a condition like that, then he's allowed to use it. He's allowed to change it from the head to the arm, even though he's going down. Why? Because he preconditioned that before using it. That's the idea. That's what this rabbi is saying. Rabbi Yerucham, right? It says Katav Mari Avuhav. It says also Mari Avuhav like that. Beshem Orchot Chaim, also the name of Orchot Chaim. Okay. I'm going to write about this soon, right over. So that's the Bet Yosef. I think there's a little bit more Bet Yosef here on the bottom. Yeah, this one. So it says, Katav Rabbeinu Agadol Ma'arav Yitzhak Avuhav. This rabbi wrote, it says, B'Shem Orchot Chaim, name Orchot Chaim, Tefillin Shel Rosh, right? So it says, Tefillin of the head, that he made a condition on that, as we said, right? Make a condition. Mutar Lasotan Shel Yad, you're allowed to make it into the arm, as we just mentioned. Afilu Hem Yeshanim, even though they're already older. Katav Shedikdek Ken Midaminan L'Gemara. So where do you learn this from? What's the source, right? He has a source for that? And so he says this from the Gemara, Menachot Lamed Al Amud Bet. Ulman the Amar, it says, according to one who says, Hazmana Miltahi, that preparation is considered to be like something significant. The Atne Alayu, that he made a condition, Katab he writes over there, it seems that Shehu Adin im Ikna ala Sudar, same thing also would apply if he made a condition on the handkerchief, right? We just mentioned, right? That he's going to use it also for money. If you made a condition like that before using it, so that would also take effect. The Tzarbe Tefillin, that he's going to use it for the tefillin, also for the mehane klomar. He's going to use it also for the money. So this works. Klomar afilu azmene lemetzabe tefillin. Even if he did it for tefillin, ela sheitna sheuchal l'shtamesh bo k'shirtzeh. But he made a condition. He said, you know what? If I want to use it for other purposes, I can. He conditioned that. It says Maran, Bet Yosef, so afterwards I saw the actual book inside, the Orchot Chaim that's being quoted here, the actual book itself. So it says, Katuv Sham Kilashon Hazeh. It says, this is what's written over there. Katav Rambam. Rambam says Tefillah shel Rosh. Says the Rambam, tune of the Rosh and osim otag shel yad. You're not allowed to make it into the arm. But Medvar, what was that said? B'shelavshan Adam. Somebody already used them one time, right? He wore them. About Tefillin shel Rosh shel lo lavshan Adam. But he says if you have a tefillin of the head, which wasn't used by anybody yet, if you want to now change it back to the arm, mutar, you're allowed to do that. You haven't used it yet. The kid said, who will say, how do you do it? It says, or as we said, right, he hangs some leather on top of it. He makes it into one piece, one compartment. The koshra al yado, and then he ties it on his arm. That Rif. It says also the Rif agrees with this. But it says the Truma, right? These two rabbis, they didn't differentiate like this. They just wrote it like simply, the halacha, without any differentiation, without any distinction like that. Whoever has two tefillin says shel Rosh. Tole or he hangs the, as we said, right? He puts the leather on top of it. Alachad man, one of them, and he puts it on his arm. We mentioned that already. That's the language of the Rambam. So it's because this rabbi saw the Ef Shalit Fos Varav that you can't really understand his words, the words of the Rambam, according to this rabbi, Baal Truma. So these two rabbis, Kipshutam, according to the simple meaning, the Imkan says, if so, they're going to be the opposite of what it says in Gemara. Therefore, he needed to explain. Therefore, he says it must be talking about the made condition beforehand. By the way, I just want to mention also, the issue of condition also applies to something more, like commonplace in our in Judaism. You know what it is? That let's say a person might build a synagogue, right? So you're not allowed to, it says in halakha, you're not allowed to eat in a synagogue or to certain activities like that. You're not allowed to sleep there. You're not allowed to eat there. It's disrespectful to do kinds of things like this. You treat it like it's your home, right? Things like this you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to make jokes over there, cut jokes, all kinds of stuff. So make a mockery, whatever, joke around. So the thing is that even though you're not allowed to do these kinds of things in the shul, but they say that if you made a tanai, in other words, as they were building the shul, they made a tanai, they made a condition. We're also going to use it for other purposes, right? In other words, it'll be a shul, but when we need, we'll also use it for a catering hall, to do catering. So if that's the case, if they made a condition like that, they're allowed to use that. That's another the way that this kind of halakha applies. But there's all kinds of discussions about that in the poskim, by the way, when you're allowed to do that, when you're not allowed to do that. It's a whole discussion in itself. But as a general rule, as a general concept, it does apply there as well. I remember one thing, that when Maran Aravadia, he made his new shul, when I was there, I was there as neighbor. He made a new shul, he made a little shul for himself. He didn't want to, be bothered by going now to the big shul, Yechavadad. So he made a little shul in his building right under his apartment. And so he opened it up, and the gabbai of the shul came to me, and told me, he says, the rabbi wants to invite you for the high holy days to be here by him, So I said, oh okay. Yeah, that's nice. I think I'll go. I think I'll come. He invited me, Can you imagine? So not only invited me, he said, the rabbi wants you to put you in the rabbi section, with the rabbis, the big rabbis there. I was like, oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. So I went. It's an offer you can't refuse, right? So whatever, right? So, as they say. So I went over there, but and since then, that I went there, I was praying there like all the time, very often, because I loved the prayers over there. It was the best prayers in the world, like nothing compared to it. You can't compare anything to the prayers that were there. Like it was so holy. I felt like it was in the Bet HaMikdash, That's what I felt over there. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you is because in that shul that the rabbi made, and he prayed there, by the way, until he passed away. He prayed there. Never did I see over there in that shul, any food or drinks. Drinks, okay, it's something else. Sometimes you need a coffee, but never I saw people eating there. They had never had meals there. So the rabbi kept it like really, really clean. Like no meals, no food, none of that stuff. He didn't want to have that stuff there. So if he, would like have a meal, what he would do is he would do it outside of the shul, like in the terrace, like in the lobby. There's a building, the apartment building. So he would put the food to spread in the lobby, not in the shul. So he never used that shul, for meals and anything like that. The rabbi was very special. What can I tell you? God bless him. God bless his soul. Okay, so anyway, right, let's get back to what we said. אפילו בדעת אלוהים עשה אמנה לומר שסובר הרמב"ם כן, ועוד בגמרא אמרינן, this is also in the Gemara we say, but he says, how does he really know? It's interesting, he says, right? He says that okay, I'll read it one more time. It's still difficult, he says, according to this explanation. Then if so, mashma the Rambam afilu b'data and then it's according to Rambam comes out that even if he made a condition oser, he still is forbidden according to Rambam. How does he know the Rambam holds like that, right? That even if he made a condition, it doesn't take effect. So he says, this is also in the Gemara we say that even according to the opinion that says that preparing something is actually takes effect before you use it. But if he made a condition, it does take effect. So therefore, the Gemara says, right, itself that conditions do take effect. Like conditions like this do take effect. So therefore, you see, right, that this is something which is brought down in the words of the sages. You can do conditions like this, whatever. By the way, you shouldn't think that it can apply to any case, but whatever, whatever there's if you have what to rely on, and you have some books that can help you to make a decision about that, so then you do make a decision. So anyway, right, as we said, that's the Beit Yosef. We're done with Beit Yosef. So we'll do Shulchan Aruch and we're done. Perfect timing. Okay, good. Perfect timing. Okay. Says Shulchan Aruch Bet. Says if he made a condition before he used it, right? So then, even if a person already wore it one time or whatever, many times, you can still change it, as we said, right? Because that condition gives you the leverage, to change, to alter, even though in general this is not allowed to do. So you can even change the head into the arm if you made a condition. That's the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins. There you go, right? What can I tell you? People don't do things like this today anyway, right? Not so much. Because we have an abundance of tefillin, like there's so much abundance. Nobody changes one to the other. We just make a new one, There's endless, abundance of tefillin going on, today. So, Baruch Hashem, all we need is people to buy it. That's all we need, right? Is people to purchase it. That's all. There's nothing is lacking today. It's a big supermarket. Okay, there's one more Shulchan Aruch and we're done. So it says in the Shulchan Aruch, one more. Yeah. So it says, Sudar de Hazman elementzah tefillin. As we said, right, a handkerchief that he made to tie tefillin with that, right? So he wants to use it permanently for that. But Tzar bet tefillin, actually used it one time. He wrapped up the tefillin there. One time. Now you cannot use it for money anymore. That's it, right? It's not anymore a purse or whatever, a wallet. It's not your wallet anymore. So says Rama, but if you made a condition to do that, then it's allowed, as we said, right? You brought down Bet Yosef. So Rama brings it down from Bet Yosef. Very good. So that's the story there. And then he goes on. So interesting. The Rama adds a little bit more halacha here. He says if you have a parchment which was processed to be tefillin, to be used for tefillin, you're not allowed to write mundane things there, right? To change it now, turn it into some kind of a newspaper, whatever, right? That's not for newspaper; it's for tefillin, right? So it has a holiness to it. So you cannot go down now, right, and make it into something mundane. So it says here, in a case like this, where you're actually changing, processing the item and doing it with intention. So he says there it does take effect. So what does that mean? It does take effect even before you use it, he says. I don't know, by the way, if everybody agrees with this Ramah. It's a chidush. He brings it from the Ran. It's interesting, but I'm not going to go into it now. It says, Azmaneh velo tzabe. But he says, if he says the Shulchan Aruch like this, if he designated it, but he didn't use it yet, the handkerchief, right? Or the other way around, right? If he used it, but didn't designate it, then you can still use it for money. So you need two things to make it forbidden, right? One is to designate it for that purpose, and the other one is to actually use it for that purpose. Then it's going to be forbidden. Okay, but as we said, right, if you made a condition, you're good, right? Then you can use it for money, no problem. Okay, Chazak Baruch, thanks for coming tonight. Shabbat Shalom. Not yet, right? We have another date. And I'm still looking for Shabbat, right? I'm preempting everything.
Yeah, I thought it was Thursday too.
We have one more day. Okay, so Baruch Hashem. Today we got something done. We're moving along very well. I think we should be finished with Tefillin B'li Neder before the Rosh Chodesh. Right? We should be done with it. Okay, very good. So God bless you all. Be blessed with wealth, health, happiness, all the good things.
Amen.
Be happy.
Thank you.
Chodesh Adar. Amen, amen.
Thank you so much.
All the best.